I do think that we have sissified society because you can't say anything about anybody. Instagram took a post down from me a few days ago for harassment and bullying. I put up a picture that said, this is what most people think a Chinese prostitute looks like. And it was a female, and then it said, but this is what it actually looks like. And it was a picture of LeBron James. And so
that's why you're here.
And they took it down for harassment and bullying. And I'm thinking, how can I, little old me, actually bully LeBron James? Like, so it's like he's above criticism, and there are certain people that you just can't criticize. And I was upset about that. I thought Instagram was being real wusses.
I just got to disagree with you. One of the things that Urban talks about publicly is his Christian faith.
Okay.
And as someone who talks about their faith publicly, one of the main reasons I do it is to police my own behavior. Dennis knows this. Anybody in Kansas City knows this. No one loved a strip club more than I did. By wearing my faith publicly, keeps me out of strip clubs.
Okay.
Keeps me out of nightclubs, basically. Now, will I go to a bar and have dinner, drinks, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you'd be hard to find me any place other than bed after 10 p.m. And so I'm pretty boring, and wearing my faith gives me the freedom to be pretty boring. Again, there's a whole group of us on the left of variety of colors that see the white man, and if he just feels sorry enough for me, he's gonna put an extra biscuit on my table.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm gonna be so happy because I'll get the extra buttered biscuit.
Yes.
And though people like Jason, he won't get that buttered biscuit from Mr. White folks because he hasn't been obedient to Mr. White folks.
Right. And they hate it. And that's why I don't like the Black Lives Matter with the white people taking over and feeling like they need to wear Black Lives Matter and put Black Lives Matter signs in their yard, because I'm saying, you think your voice carries more weight than mine? I know that my life matters. I don't need you to speak for me.
Right.
And that's what I don't like about the people on the left, because they feel like they need to speak for me.
Yes.
Whereas conservatives will give me the mic, let me speak for myself.
Was Sage Steele's problem. There's a certain place that you're not allowed to go, because if you arrive there, you might lose your job, you're going to lose a lot of friends, you might get suspended, and it might cost you money. That place is called there. She went there. And once you arrive there, you're going to find out there are some consequences of being there. So keep this in mind. So when you're on the free speech freeway and you see there in 2 miles, you better be very careful if you want to pull off. And what she said is factually true, but I don't think she's allowed to say it. I read a story from a website where ESPN gave a comment about this situation. Said, no, and it basically said, well, we respect everyone's right to have dialogue, and this is one of the great things about our place is that we welcome that type of stuff as long as it's consistent with our values. My question is, does our values really mean our views?
Yeah, and I could summarize that chapter by saying Colin Kaepernick is an asshole. That's the best way I know to categorize a person like Colin Kaepernick. And you know, you remember Colin Kaepernick, who in all of his blame shifting and blame gaming of trying to make himself look like a victim and folks like it. I mean, you talk about winning the lottery. I mean, coming out of a potential very unfortunate life situation, but winning the lottery in life, and then to deign yourself as an oppressed human being. He's living the American dream, quite honestly. Wokeism, this is a perfect example. Wokeism, it can pay, right? Typically we say get woke, go broke. It can pay. It could cost you your career, but, you can, there's a few folks out there, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, those kind of guys, they come to mind.
He also received a trophy, not the original, 4 weeks later before a race in Savannah, Georgia. Those are the facts. Published in the Jacksonville newspaper for everybody to see. If she's the alleged motorsports expert, I'm unqualified to talk about this. But I can hunt down the facts better than Jenna Fryer. This is intentional distortion. This is intentionally done to trigger people emotionally along racial lines. This is done to divide us. The AP is America's news source to the world. Jenna Fryer is sloppy. Her editors are sloppy. They're doing this intentionally. They're doing it at the behest of China. They're compromised. This is fake news.
Right now, the victimhood narrative, the victimhood mantra is the hottest narrative. And so that's what people are trying to sell. And, they're trying to up the rank and the scale of how much of a victim they are. And it's victim politics. And so whoever's the greatest victim seems to have the greatest reward. And I know you even we're talking about this with George Floyd and some of those things going on. What's crazy about this is that today, very few people know the story of George Washington Carver. Very few people know the story of Booker T. Washington, Up From Slavery. How many people have never read Up From Slavery, which I think is one of the, if we're going to have a list together of maybe the 10 most important books that you read as an American, that for sure is on that list of the 10 most important books. And yet most people have never read Up From Slavery, Booker T. Washington's autobiography. But what's even crazier now is the modern reprints of Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up From Slavery. They actually now have an insert in the front that says this is a work of fiction.
My grandmother, Lovey Kennedy, it's hard for me, but she told me as a kid, I used to have bad nightmares and couldn't go to sleep. And she's like, oh, Jason, all you need to do is say, devil, get away from me in the name of Jesus Christ. The dreams will stop. I've done that because I'd have really deep dreams.
Sure.
And for 48 years, every time I say that, the dreams stop. And it just a reminder, like, God's word and just calling out that name has incredible power that we don't often tap into. You said Chris Rock isn't funny anymore.
No. Now what's happening is that the modern comedian of any race or color is now forced to be in a box of woke. And if you're not in that box, you're in trouble. And some of the stuff that Chris Rock has done, he's even admitted it, some of his greatest riffs would not be allowed today. And I think you know which ones. One of my favorite Chris Rock riffs is, well, I got a job. Good. What do you want, a cookie? Well, I raised my family. Well, good. What do you want, an award? If you say that now, they would actually come down on Chris Rock. And Chris Rock, for whatever reason, has bowed down and said, okay, I'll play within those new lines. And it's unfortunate. He's not the guy he was in 1995.
Yeah, he definitely won't. Remember he put out the video, How to Not Get Arrested or Killed by the Police?
Oh, look.
Yeah, he would never.
One of the most underrated shows of all time on HBO was the Chris Rock Show. It was a half-hour show, and he still has this interview with Don King. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But he would make fun of everybody.
Literally, there are people that feel like they're dogs or cats or cows. And we can't say, well, because this person feels like a cow, we gotta pretend to pump milk from their male breast, or we gotta, we just can't do it. Yeah. I'm sorry. I gotta squeeze into a seat on Southwest Airlines. I'm not the most comfortable for those 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it is. I got to deal with that. And I know it sounds like I'm trivializing, but I'm really not. I'm just trying, great societies that work have a set of rules and laws that work for most people, and everybody else has to make some adjustments. And we all have to make adjustments.
We go with the tribe, even if it's against our personal values and morals, or if we even have any, because a lot of people do not, they just go with the flow. But what he was talking about, and he mentioned it a little bit, he said that she was a comedian, she was part of my tribe. It transcended the transgender stuff. And there was some commonality there. And she had a quote, what did she say? I need you to believe that I'm having a human experience. And that, to me, encapsulates everything, because, again, I mentioned it already, but people are human beings. Like, yeah, we have these different tribes and we have these different categories that we fit into, but at the end of the day, we're human beings and we need to see each other as human beings.
Recently, my wife asked me, like, so why do you think that you feel so much stronger about these things? And I told her, once we had kids, the stakes got raised because at some point I'm leaving this earth. I hope it's a long time from now, but I'm going to leave something back for my children and my children's children and my children's children's children, Lord willing. And the way things are going now, I don't know what that's going to look like. And part of the problem, and I put this squarely on the Black leadership class, is that ours is the only community that spends as much time talking about the society that our ancestors had to endure rather than the society that our descendants will inhabit.
Let's get to our approval rating on Tyson Fury. I'm really fascinated by your scores, Steve. He's the heavyweight champion. You just said he's made it. Job performance, again, he's not an all-time great. I'm gonna give him a 17, but my God, you give him a 10?
One of the mantras that you and Marcellus would always say on that other show was
Why do you keep calling it the other show instead of speak for yourself?
Well, I want to respect this platform, but anyway, here's the issue. If you never show up for your job, are you really good at it? I mean, let's just go through the history. He beats Vladimir Klitschko late November of 2015 in a lot of myriad of personal issues and other things. Didn't fight for 2.5 years, right? So then this fight here, he decides not to have a tune-up since last February. This is an actual stat, and I've written about this. He's been the heavyweight champion of the world twice and has never had any official title defenses. That has to be some sort of record. So you guys always say one of the best abilities is availabilities. So for that, I have to give him a 10.
This is why Cori Bush and people like Stacey Adams are being heralded as the epitome of Black excellence when they could really be poster children for obesity, diabetes, and high blood pressure. This is why Joe Biden could have spoken to any woman in America that he wanted to, but he talked to Cardi B, who could barely string a sentence together, but no one wanted to say anything because she's a Black woman. This is why you have single Black women having children, having child after child, but no one wants to say anything as she screams, "I don't need a man," while she teaches your daughters these same values and raise your sons to be gangbangers and no one wants to say anything to Black women. This is exactly why I myself hold back a lot, because I know that there's a group of Black women that would have a problem with what I have to say. But this is why right now I don't care.